From chaos comes structure, where there was once only undifferentiated potential fluid, undefined, without boundary, something begins to take shape. Distinctions emerge. Separation occurs. What was once everything at once begins to organize into something specific. This transition marks one of the most important shifts in every mythological system. It is not the creation of existence, but the organization of it. This stage is represented by figures such as Zeus in Greek mythology, Jupiter in Roman tradition, Enlil in Mesopotamian texts, and El in Canaanite belief. Though their names differ, their function remains consistent across cultures. They are not simply gods, they are archetypes of authority. They do not create reality from nothing. Instead, they impose structure onto what already exists. They divide sky from earth, establish hierarchy among beings, and define the rules that govern existence. In doing so, they transform chaos into something navigable, something that can be understood, lived within, and maintained. This is the foundation of systems, governments, and laws. It is the moment where existence stops being purely potential and becomes regulated. Authority in this sense is not merely control, it is definition. It draws lines where there were none. It determines what belongs and what does not. It assigns position, purpose, and limitation. Without this layer, reality would remain unstructured, impossible to engage with in any meaningful way. But beneath this visible layer of authority, represented by sky gods and rulers, there exists a deeper, more fundamental force. A force that does not rule through command, but through inevitability. This is represented by Cronus, known in Roman tradition as Saturn. While Zeus and similar figures represent active authority, the enforcement of order, Cronus represents something more absolute, time itself. Not time as measured by clocks, but time as a condition of existence. The force that ensures all things progress, change, decay, and eventually end. Cronus does not command systems. He defines the boundaries within which all systems must operate. Even authority is subject to time. Even structure cannot escape its limits. This is why Saturn has long been associated with symbols of structure and containment. The square, for example, represents stability, order, and limitation, something fixed and grounded, in contrast to the fluidity of chaos. The black cube, often referenced symbolically, reflects containment and form, reality confined within defined edges. The ring, most visibly associated with Saturn itself, represents cycles, boundaries, and enclosure. These symbols are not arbitrary. They reflect the nature of structured reality. Once chaos is organized, it becomes something measurable, something contained, something that operates within limits. This introduces a crucial understanding. Order is not purely liberating. It is also restrictive. Rules create stability, but they also define what cannot be done. Structure enables function, but it limits freedom. Hierarchy organizes, but it also controls. This dual nature is essential. Without order, nothing can function. But with order, everything becomes subject to constraint. This is the tension that defines this layer. Chaos is infinite but unusable. Order is functional but limiting. Between them, reality takes shape. The idea of Cronus or Saturn as a Lord of the Rings can be understood symbolically within this framework. Rings represent cycles and boundaries, the repetition of time and the containment of existence within structure. To rule the rings is not simply to hold power, but to exist at the level where cycles themselves are governed. It is to represent the framework within which all action, growth, and decay occur. This archetype is not confined to mythology. It appears clearly in modern life. Governments establish laws. Institutions define systems. Schedules regulate time. Contracts define obligation. These are all expressions of the same layer, order imposed onto potential. Deadlines, routines, and responsibilities are not separate from this archetype. They are its modern form. Through them, time becomes structured, action becomes regulated, life becomes organized into predictable patterns. This is what transforms existence into something livable, but also something bounded. The core insight of this stage is simple, but foundational. Order does not create reality, it makes reality function. It transforms chaos into structure, but in doing so, it introduces limits that shape everything that follows. And once structure exists, something new becomes possible. Not just existence, not just order, but awareness. Because once reality is defined, it can be observed. And that observation gives rise to the next stage, light.